Hello everyone, this is Guru Charan Das, Audible lecturer in Marketing Management, Government City College, Nayapur, Hyderabad. Today we will discuss about perception and attribution. Okay, the concept of perception is very closely related to the personality of a person, right? Personality of a person. We know that people working in organizations differ in terms of physical characteristics, backgrounds such as training and education, and personality traits. One of the consequences of such differences is that people do not view the things in the same way. Perception is described as a person's view of reality, how you are looking at something, right? Every person perceives the world and approaches the life problems differently. The opinion about, okay, and the evaluation of particular event, opinion about the event and evaluation of the particular event differs from person to person. Reactions of people to different situations are also different. The reason is that people behave on the basis of what they perceive reality to be and not necessarily as what reality is. Perception is one of the most important psychological factors affecting the human behavior because perception is the way an individual experiences the situation, right? And we'll see the meaning and definition. Perception is the process through which the information from outside environment is selected, received, organized, and interpreted to make it meaningful to you. This input of meaningful information results in decision and actions. Okay, for what purpose we are perceiving? To take an appropriate decision and to respond. Right? A few definitions of perception given by different authors. We'll see them. Yeah, perception may be defined as a process by which individuals organize and interpret their sensory impressions in order to give meaning to the perceived environment. According to Joseph Rees, perception includes all those processes by which an individual receives information about his environment, seeing that what I mean to say, how he is receiving the information, seeing, okay, by seeing with your eyes, with your naked eyes, right, and hearing with our audible, okay, sensory organs, that is hears, feeling, okay, with our what we consciousness, tasting and smelling, we receive the information from the environment, and then the study of these perceptual process shows that their functioning is affected by three classes of variables: the object, okay, or event being perceived, the environment to which perception occurs, and individual doing the perceiving. In simple words, we can say the perception is the act of seeing what is there to be seen, but what is seen is influenced by the perceiver. The object and environment, the meaning of perception emphasizes all these 3 points, right? Now we'll see nature of perception. Perception has been explained by Ajit Singh. Okay, we'll see what he has said. Perception refers to the interpretation of sensory data. Interpretation of sensory data. What you have perceived through your sensory organs, you will interpret them. In other words, sensation involves detecting a presence of stimulus, where perception involves understanding what the stimulus means. For example, when we see something, the visual stimulus is the light energy reflecting from the external world, and the eyes becomes the sensor organs. Eyes become sensors. Okay, they sense or detect the light. This visual image of the external things become perception when it is interpreted in the visual cortex of the brain. Okay, what our brain will do? Okay, what you have seen, what you have perceived about the external object, and that will be interpreted. Thus, visual perception refers to interpreting the image of the external world projected on retina of the eye and constructing a model of three-dimensional world. Okay, if you see a lemon, okay, lemon may be green or yellow, If you are not colorblind, certainly what you will see, you will interpret, right? Now we'll move on to importance of perception. Okay, why perception is important? Perception is very important in understanding the human behavior, because every person perceives the world and approaches the life problem differently. Whatever we see or feel is not necessarily the same as it really is. It is because what we hear is not really said. Do you understand? But what we perceive is as being said. When we buy something, it is not because it is the best, but because we take it as the best. We take it to be the best. Thus, it is because of perception. We can find out why one individual finds a job satisfying while another may not be satisfied with it. Okay, because differences in the perception. Some people feel the job is good, okay, satisfactory. Some people may not feel that job is good. We can say two things here. One who has chosen the job by chance don't get satisfied. One who has chosen the job by choice certainly will get satisfied with the work he is rendering, and with the environment, of course, there may be a chance to get some sort of disturbances, even though they may get satisfied. Okay, right. And if people behave on the basis of their perception, we can predict their behavior in the changed circumstances by understanding their present perception of the environment. One person may be viewing the fact in one way, which is maybe different from the facts as seen by the another viewer. Right? With the help of perception, the needs of various people can be determined, because people's perception is influenced by their needs. Like the mirror at an amusement park, they distort the world in relation to their tensions. Right? That was what we can say here. Perception is very important for managers who wants to avoid making errors. Mistakes are made by man only. Human beings can do. Okay, there may be a chance to happen the mistakes in machines, but because of the fault arises in it, if it is not rectified in time, certainly they will produce qualityless products. That is because of error arose in the machine, that is okay, not properly detected by the technician who has to address that particularly, right? And when dealing with people and events in the working at setting, avoid making errors. The manager has to study or observe the perception. This problem is made more complicated by the fact that different people perceive the same situation differently. In order to deal with the subordinates effectively, the manager must understand their perceptions properly. Right? Thus, understanding their human behavior, it is very important to understand their perception, that is, how they perceive the different situations. People behavior is based on their perceptions of what reality is, not on it, right? The world as it is perceived, the world that is important for understanding their human behavior, right? And we'll see the perception process. Okay, from the definition of perception and nature, it is clear that the perception is composed of various sub-processes. Namely, we call them as receiving, selecting, organizing, interpreting, checking, and reacting to the stimuli. Right? Though perception people process information input into decision and actions. In other words, it is screen filter through which information passes before having any effect on people. Right? The figure given on the next page explains perception process. Right? Perceptual inputs. A number of stimuli are constantly confronting people in the form of information. Okay, regularly we'll face lot of information. Okay, we are subject to lot of stimuli that is happening constantly. Okay, that may be in the form of information, objects, events, people, so on in the environment. These serve as the inputs of the perceptual process. A few of the stimuli affecting the sense organs, are the noise of the air cooler. Okay, that is audible, and moreover, that sometimes that may disturb our attention. Okay, and the sound of the people talking and moving outside noises from the okay, vehicular traffic, or a street repair shop, or a loudspeaker playing somewhere. Okay, plus the impact of the total environment situation. Sometimes we could not pay attention to particular thing. Some stimuli do not affect the senses of a person consciously, a process called subliminal perception. Some stimuli do not affect the senses of a person consciously. Okay, a process called subliminal perception. Right, and second we will discuss perceptual mechanism. When a person receives information, he tries to process it through the following sub-process of selection, organization, and interpretation. And it's perceptual selectivity. Okay, we'll see. Under perceptual mechanism, we have perceptual selectivity. Okay, that is perceptual selectivity because it will be affected by many things are taking place in the environment simultaneously. However, one cannot pay equal attention to all the things. That's the need of perceptual selectivity. Okay, we are looking towards a lot of things. We are hearing so many sounds, but we may not pay equal attention to all which we were exposed to. Perceptual selectivity refers to the tendency to select certain objects from the environment for attention. The objects which are selected are those which are relevant and appropriate for an individual, or those which are consistent without existing beliefs, values, and needs. For this, we need to screen or filter out most of them so that we may deal with the important or relevant ones. Which are relevant only we will take, which are only important we will absorb. Right? They are external factors and internal factors. Okay. Various external and internal factors which affect our selection process can go through here. First, external factors. The size. Okay, bigger size obviously take our attention. It's a bigger size is a stimulus, the higher is the probability that it is perceived. Size always attracts the attention. Okay, that may be smaller, if very small, a person you find is smaller than usual, then your attention will be from that side, go that side. If a person is abnormally a gained personality person you saw, then your attention obvious to say that will go that side. The size may be the height, weight, individual, signboard, shop, everything. Right, next, we'll see intensity. Okay, under we'll see intensity, another external factor. Intensity attracts to increase the selectivity perception. Okay, a few examples of intensity are yelling or whispering. Generally, అరవడము గుసగుస పెట్టడము, generally the intensity is more that will attract. A very bright color. Okay, if you see a very bright color, fluorescent color that affects some sort of light, okay, when it reflects, when light falls on it, fluorescent color emits light. Okay, that will be attractive. The brighter, sometimes very dim light also attractive. Okay, your house are many what we call them as high intense lights, then a dim light take your attention. Right, intensity will also include behavioral intensity. If the office order says report to the boss immediately, it will be more intense and effective as compared to the office orders which says make it convenient to meet the boss today. Make it convenient to meet the boss today. See the difference. Okay, the first one is more intensive. Report to the boss immediately. Report to the boss immediately. Whereas make it convenient to make the boss today. Make it convenient to meet the boss today. Right? And another is reception. The reception principle states that repeated external stimuli is more attention drawing than a single one. Because of the principle, supervisors make it a point to give the necessary directions again and again to the workers. You will find, in order to drag the attention of the people, the advertisements sometimes used to see cricket crazy in India. The advertisements are very costly. The space bought by those sponsors is very costly. What they do? They advertise the product very frequently in repetitive manner in order to attract the attention of the people. Similarly, the same advertisement or different advertisement but for the same product shows again and again on the TV will have more attention as compared to an advertisement which is shown once a day, right? And another is status. High status people can exert great influence on the perception of the employees than the low status people. There will always be different reactions to the order given by the foreman, the supervisor or the production manager, right? And another is contrast. An object which contrasts with the surrounding environment is more likely to be noticed than the object blends in the environment. When the object is contrast to the surroundings. For example, background is white and the object is black. And vice versa it can be. Then that will take the attention of the people. It can easily noticed. When background is black itself and the object is also black, that will blend in the environment and not notice. The exit signboards, if you observe in the cinema halls, the exit signboards are red letters, have the red letters on a black background. Our attention drawing or a warning sign in a factory such as danger written in black against a red or yellow background, right, will be easily noticeable. That in a room, if there are 20 men and 1 woman, the women will be noticed first because of the contrast. In the same manner, if there are 20 women and 1 man, because of contrast, the men will be noticed first. And another is movement. The principle of motion states that a moving object receives more attention than an object which is standing still. This is generally happens in our life. A moving object receives more attention than an object which is standing still. A moving car among the parked cars catches our attention faster. A flashing neon sign is more easily noticed than just a glowing continuously, than one which is glowing continuously. And novelty and familiarity. Novelty and familiarity. This principle states that either a novel or a familiar external situation can serve as an attention getter, right? New objects in the familiar settings or familiar objects in a new settings will draw the attention of the perceiver. A familiar face on a crowded railway platform will immediately catch attention. Because of this principle, the managers change the workers' jobs from time to time because it will increase the attention they give to their jobs, right? And another is nature. By nature we mean whether the object is visual or auditory, and wherever it involves pictures, people or animal. It is well known that pictures attracts more attention than words. Video attracts more attention than still pictures. A picture with human beings attracts more attention than a picture with animals. Okay, poetry attracts more attention than prose. And now we will discuss internal factors. The internal factors related to the perceiver. Okay, perceiving people is very important for a manager because behavior occurs as a result of behavior. Right? Internal factors, okay, which affect the perception are learning. Although interrelated with other internal factors, learning may play the single biggest role developing perceptual set. Okay, a perceptual set is basically what a person expects from the stimuli and the basis of his learning experience relative to same or similar stimuli. The perceptual set is also known as cognitive awareness. Okay, cognitive awareness by which the mind organizes information, okay, and forms images, compares them with previous exposures to similar stimuli. A number of illustrations have been used by psychologists to demonstrate the impact of learning on perception. Okay, some example, for example, you saw a board stating that can you find the mistake in the second line. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, they are okay, printed in multicolor. Then your concentration will be on the numbers only because they are multicolor, and you couldn't find that mistake unless until you observe keenly. Right, it takes reader sometimes to realize that there is no mistake in the number, but there is an extra the in the first line. You can find the mistake. One tends to read the sentence because of prior learning as can you find the mistake. Okay, because of experience, because okay, one tends to read the sentence because of prior learning. We have learned that can you find the mistake, right? In this okay, same sense we will have lot of examples for this. Okay, same all objects are may not be same. If you see something in the object with your intuition, that will be okay, take your what we call it as stereotype type impression and will continue. Second is motivation. Besides the learning aspects of perceptual set, motivation also has a vital impact on perceptual selectivity. Example, a person who has relatively high need for power, affiliation or achievement will be more attentive to the relevant situational variables. Right? For example, when such a person walks into the lunchroom, he may go to the table where several of his co-workers are sitting rather than a table which is empty or on which just one person is sitting. Another example is that a hungry person will be more sensitive to the smell or sight of the food than no hungry person. Right? In one experiment, people who were kept hungry for some time were shown some pictures and were asked to describe what they saw in them. Most of them reported more food items in such perceptions. Right? That is motivation because they are in need of them. And another is personality. Personality closely, this is internal factor, this is also closely related to learning and motivation is the personality of perceiving person. For example, the older senior executives often complain about the inability of the new younger manager to take tough decisions concerning terminating or reassigning people and paying attention to details and paperwork. The younger manager in turn complain about the old guards resisting change and using paper and rules and as ends in themselves. Different perceptions in young and old are due to their age differences. Further, the generation gap witnessed in recent years definitely contribute to different perceptions. Right? In addition to the okay, two problems, another problem is about the women in the workplace. Okay, women are still not reaching the top level of organizations at the right. At least part of this problem can be attributed to perceptual barriers such as the established managerial hierarchy, is not able to perceive that qualified women should be promoted into top level positions. Of course, there are individual differences in all age categories, but the above example shows that how personalities, values, and even age may affect the way people perceive the world around them, right? And perceptual organization. After having selectively absorbed the data from the range of stimuli we are exposed to at any given time, when we then try to organize the perceptual inputs in such a manner that would facilitate us to extract meaning out of what we perceive. Or in other words, person's perceptual process organizes the incoming information into a meaningful whole. While selection is a subjective process, organizing is the cognitive process. Okay, how we organize the stimuli is primarily based on a few principles. That is, one is figure and ground. Okay, figure and ground principle is generally considered to be the most basic form of perceptual organization. This principle simply implies that the perceived object or person or event stands out distinct, okay, from its background and occupies the cognitive space of individual. Okay, we have many what we call them as examples for this. Perceptual grouping is another, right? What is perceptual grouping? Grouping is tendency to club individual stimuli into meaningful patterns. For instance, if we perceive objects or people with similar characteristics, we tend to group them together, and this organizing mechanism helps us to deal with the information in an efficient way rather than getting bogged down and confused with so many details. Right? This tendency of grouping is very basic in nature and largely seems to be inborn. Some of the factors underlying is grouping. Right? The principle of similarity. Another is similarity. Principle of similarity states that the greater the similarity of stimuli, the greater the tendency to perceive them as a common group. Right? Next, proximity. The principle of proximity or nearness, that a group stimuli that are closely together will be perceived as whole pattern of parts belonging together. Right? Another is closure. Okay, the principle of closure relates to the tendencies of the people to perceive object as whole when some parts of the object are missing. The person's perceptual process will close the gaps that are unfilled from sensory inputs. And another is continuity. Continuity is closely related. Right, closely related. But there is a difference. Closure supplies missing stimuli. Okay, whereas the continuity principle says that the person will tend to perceive continuous lines of patterns. The continuity may lead to inflexible or non-creative thinking on the part of the organizational participants. Okay, only the obvious patterns or relationship will be perceived. And perceptual consistency. Okay, and there is perceptual consistency. Right. Consistency is one of the more sophisticated forms of perceptual organization. This concept gives a person a sense of stability in this changing world. This principle permits the individual to have some constancy, what we call it as a stability in tremendous variable and high complex world. Shape constancy. Another is perceptual constancy, and perceptual constancy we have different. Shape constancy is one. Okay, wherever an object appears to maintain its shape deposit, okay, despite marked changes in the retinal images. The top of glass bottle is seen as circular, whether we view it from the side, side or from the top. Then size constancy. The size constancy refers to the fact that an object is moved farther away from us, we tend to see it more or less invariant in size, right? The same will be perceived when, in photographs. Those who are uh, lost in the group, right, appears to be small, right? And color consistency means implies that familiar objects are perceived to be of the same color in varied conditions. The owner of a red car sees it as red in the bright sunlight as well as in dim twilight. But if you are not exposed to such a right object, you may perceive the color in different manner. And perceptual context, okay, that is the highest and most sophisticated forms of organizations are context. It gives meaning and values, right? And perceptual defense, closely related to perceptual context, is perceptual defense. A person may build a defense against stimuli situational events in a particular context that may play a very important role in understanding union management and supervision subordinates. Perceptual interpretation, and that perceptual interpretation is an integral part of the perception process. Without interpretation, selection and organization of information do not make any sense. After the information has been received and organized, the perceiver interprets or assigns meaning to the information. And then checking after the data have been received and interpreted, the perceiver tends to check whether his interpretations are right or wrong. One way of checking is for the person himself to indulge in introspection. He will put a series of questions to himself, and the answers will confirm whether his perception about an individual or object is correct or otherwise. And next is reacting. The last stage in perception is the reaction. The perceiver shall indulge in some action in relation to the perception. The action depends upon whether the perception is favorable or unfavorable. It is negative when the perception is unfavorable, and action is positive when the perception is favorable. Right? In the next class, we will discuss factors influencing the perceptual set. Thank you for listening patiently.